Amira and Leroy had been married for 8 years. Both were successful. Leroy ran a thriving tech company, and Amira was a sought-after architect. They had everything a couple could wish for: wealth, love, and respect. But the one thing that eluded them was a child. They had visited countless hospitals, seen the best specialists, and undergone every test. Yet the results were always the same. You are both fine. Just wait, it will happen, the doctors would say. Leroy never allowed the pressure from his family to affect Amira. He was always her shield, defending her whenever his mother or relative hinted at her inability to conceive. But that evening was different. Amira had just returned from work, exhausted but relieved to be home. As she stepped towards the front door, she heard raised voices inside. She paused, her heart pounding. Leroy was yelling at his mother. "You need to stop this, Mom." His voice was sharp, filled with frustration. "Stop what, Leroy?" His mother snapped back. "Stop worrying about my only son? Stop telling you the truth? 8 years, Leroy. 8 years of waiting. And what has she given to you? Amira is my wife, and I love her. Whether we have a child or not, that does not change anything." Leroy's voice cracked with anger. "Love?" His mother scoffed. "Love doesn't give you an heir. Love doesn't continue your lineage. Your mates have children running around their homes while you sit here defending a barren woman." Amira felt the air leaving her lungs. "Enough!" Leroy shouted. "If you cannot respect my wife, then don't come here anymore." His mother gasped. "You dare speak to me like this because of a woman?" Amira stood frozen at the door, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. She had heard enough. Swallowing her pain, she wiped her tears, straightened her posture, and pushed the door open with a bright, fake smile. "Good evening, Mama," she greeted sweetly, as though she had not just heard her soul being ripped apart. Her mother-in-law turned sharply, her face twisted in anger. "So, you finally showed your face," she said as she gave a hiss. Amira ignored the hostility and walked towards her husband for a hug, craving his warmth. Before she could reach him, his mother grabbed her by the arm, yanking her backward. Then came the slap, a hot, stinging slap across Amira's face, so forceful that she stumbled and fell to the ground. Leroy stood in shock. "Mama!" He roared. His mother folded her arms. "Maybe that will reset her womb," she said. Amira slowly pushed herself off the floor, her vision blurred with tears. Leroy rushed to her, but before he could hold her, she stepped back. "Amira, please," he pleaded, but she shook her head. Without another word, she turned and ran out the door. Amira barely registered her surroundings as she hailed a cab. Her mind swelled with pain, anger, and humiliation. By the time she arrived at Benjamin's small apartment, her best friend, she was already shaking. Benjamin opened the door, surprised to see her. "Amira, what happened?" He stepped aside to let her in. She didn't answer. She just walked in, sank into his couch, and burst into tears. Benjamin sat beside her, rubbing her back gently. "It's okay. Just breathe. Breathe." She tried, but the sobs kept coming. "Was it Leroy?" he asked softly. She shook her head. "No, his mother. She hit me." Benjamin's jaw clenched. "That woman is a maniac," he said. Amira wiped her eyes. "I can't go. I can't go back tonight, Benjamin." "Then don't," Benjamin said firmly. Just then, he glanced towards the bedroom. He had a guest waiting, But he couldn't leave Amira like this. "I'll make you some tea," he said, standing up. "Let me just go and make you some tea, okay? So that you calm down." "Thank you," she whispered. Benjamin returned with a big t-shirt and handed it to her. "Change into this. Get comfortable. You can stay as long as you need," he said. Amira took the shirt and nodded. "I'll just use the guest room." She changed, sipped the warm tea, and lay down, her mind still in turmoil. As she drifted into an uneasy sleep, she wondered, was this the breaking point of her marriage? Just then, she slept off. The next morning, Amira woke up with a loud scream. Benjamin, still half asleep, jumped up in panic. He grabbed the nearest object, a shoe, and charged towards the bed. "Where is it? Where is it? I will kill it!" he shouted, looking around wildly. Amira blinked at him in confusion. "Kill what?" Benjamin's eyes darted around the room. "The snake or whatever attacked you." She stared at him for a moment before shaking her head. "Nothing attacked me, Benjamin." Benjamin took a deep breath, rubbing his forehead. "Then why did you scream like that?" Amira hesitated, then looked at him seriously. "Benjamin, what happened to me last night? Did you drug me?" Benjamin stepped back, shocked. "What?" "Amira, how can you even say that? Why would I ever drug my best friend?" Amira sat up, pulling the blanket over herself. "I don't know. You tell me. Or better still, explain why I woke up naked." Benjamin's face dropped. His eyes widened in realization. "Oh my God, that's why you screamed like that?" Ha! He ran his hands through his hair, his voice shaking. "Amira, I swear on my life, I didn't touch you. I didn't drug you. We have been friends for years, and I have never seen you that way. You are like a sister to me, and all I have ever done is fight for you and defend you." Amira washed his face, his expression, searching for any sign of deception. He looked genuinely hurt. After a long pause, she sighed. "Maybe I just got too hot last night and took off my clothes in my sleep by myself." Benjamin exhaled in relief. "Well, maybe, but I promise, nothing happened." She nodded. "Thank you for always being by my side." She got up and got dressed, preparing to leave. When she picked up her phone, she realized the battery was dead. With a sigh, she grabbed her charger, plugged it in for a few minutes, and then left, returning back home to her husband. As she stepped into her home, she found Leroy kneeling in the middle of the living room. His eyes were red, his face full of regret. "Amira, I am so sorry." She stared at him, surprised. "It's not your fault, Leroy. You have always defended me. It's fine. Stand up." Leroy slowly stood, searching her eyes for any sign of anger. Suddenly, they rushed into each other's arms, kissing passionately. Without another word, they moved upstairs, making love as if trying to erase the pain of the past. A few weeks later, Amira started feeling sick. At first, she ignored it, but the constant nausea, dizziness, and strange cravings were becoming too much. Then one morning, as she stood in front of the mirror, brushing her hair, it hit her. She hasn't seen her period in over a month. Her heart pounded. Could it be? She rushed to the pharmacy, bought a pregnancy test, and took it immediately. Positive. Her hands trembled as she whispered, 9 years, before collapsing onto the floor. Hours later, she woke up in the same spot. She sat up slowly, whispering to herself, "Am I dreaming? Am I dreaming? I don't want to wake up." Her hands shook as she crawled towards the pregnancy test. She picked it up, staring at it with wide, unbelieving eyes. No, no, this can't be real. She ran back to the pharmacy and bought 20 more tests. Each one came back positive. She screamed, then quickly covered her mouth, holding her stomach and whispering to herself, I need to stop screaming. I don't want to hurt my baby. Grabbing her bag and her car keys, she walked out like a 9 month old pregnant woman, whispering to herself, I have to be careful. I don't want to hurt my baby. She drove straight to the hospital. A blood test confirmed it. Tears streamed down her face as she drove to a baby shop. Standing in the middle of the shop, she sobbed, crying profusely. Finally, finally, I am about to be a mother. One of the attendants approached her. Ma'am, are you all right? Amira wiped her eyes, smiling. Yes. She immediately started baby shopping, buying diapers, clothes, and toys. That evening, Leroy came home and froze at the sight before him. Baby items were scattered everywhere. His wife was dancing, cuddling a teddy bear. Honey, what's going on? Why are there baby items everywhere? Who gave birth? Amira turned and grinned. You did, silly. Leroy blinked. Me? When? How? I swear to God, I don't have any child outside. She giggled. What about inside? She asked. Inside? Me? Inside? He repeated, confused. She handed him the pregnancy strips and the lab results. His hand shook as he looked at them. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Then suddenly, he started choking. Amira ran to get him water. Are you okay? She asked. He gulped the water, then put on a forced smile. Yes, yes, I just needed a moment. Then, out of nowhere, he let out a loud booming laugh. He lifted Amira in the air, spinning her around. Finally, we are going to be parents. They celebrated with friends and family. Even Leroy's mother came forward, apologizing for all the harsh things she had done and said to Amira. Months later, and they found that they were expecting twins. The joy was overwhelming. They threw a lavish baby shower, the talk of the town. Guests were amazed by the decorations, the grand buffet, and the expensive gifts. Months later, Amira gave birth to two handsome boys. But something was off. One of the babies had bright green eyes. Leroy's family whispered among themselves. There were no green eyes in their lineage. Leroy, as always, defended his wife. Genetics can be unpredictable. It doesn't have to be generational thing. The doctor backed him up, explaining rare genetic mutations. Life moved on. 2 years later, and Amira was cooking when her phone rang. Her heart stopped when she heard the voice on the other end. Your son has had an accident. He hit his head. He needs emergency care. She grabbed her car keys, calling Leroy on the way. At the hospital, the principal met her. Where is my son? She demanded. Inside, ma. The doctor is examining him now. Minutes later, and the doctors called her into his office. The office was filled with medical books, white walls, and a single ticking clock. The doctor's voice was calm but serious. Your son has suffered severe head trauma. He has lost a lot of blood. We need to operate on him fast. Amira nodded quickly. Do whatever you have to do, doctor. He needs blood. And for that, we need to check if your blood matches before the transfusion. Minutes later, and the doctor returned. I am sorry, Miss Leroy, but your blood doesn't match. Amira's breath caught in her throat. Soon, Leroy arrived with their other son. And Amira gave him details of all that had happened and all the doctor had said. So they needed to try his blood to make sure he was also a match before donating blood to his son. They tested his blood and he was not a match. Leroy called his family members. Since Amira was an only child and an orphan, he called his family members to also get them tested to see if any of them would match with his son in order to donate blood. But still, none of them was a match. Then the doctor suggested testing the twin brother. After all, they are twins, just that due to they are still young, if he gets tested and donates blood to the elder one, then they will have to put him under special care to make sure he doesn't fall sick. They got tested, and soon the doctor came back looking strange at the result. He turned to the couple and asked, "Are they really twins?" "Yes," Amira replied. "Yes, of course, yes, they are." The doctor hesitated. "Are you sure?" Leroy almost lost his temper. "What are you getting at?" The doctor sighed. "I don't know how to say this, but something is not right. Your sons are not blood related." Amira clutched her ears, shaking. "What?" She closed her ears and scratched them a bit, then asked the doctor to explain better. He then said, "I don't know what is going on here, but I think we might have to do a DNA test and find a way to donate blood to him ASAP, else he's going to fall into a coma." Few hours later, and the DNA result came out with both husband and wife sitting tensed on the doctor's office as he break the news. "I'm sorry, but your sons are not blood related. They are twins, yes. They are from the same mother, yes, but not of the same father." Amira fainted, and just then, Leroy's mother had come to the hospital to see her grandchild when she was directed to go to the doctor's office to meet her son and find out more about the situation of things. So, she was at the door when the doctor broke the news and she screamed and also fainted. After Amira and her mother in law fainted from the shocking news they have received from the doctor, they were given a room at the hospital to rest and recover. And Amira was the first to wake up. While her mother in law lay on the hospital bed next to her, she stared at the ceiling for a moment before reality came crashing down on her. Tears welled up in her eyes, and within seconds, she was crying uncontrollably. Leroy, who had been half asleep beside her, sat up in shock. "Amira, what is it?" he asked, holding her shoulders gently, trying to calm her down, but she was unconsolable. "I don't understand, Leroy," she sobbed, shaking her head wildly. "How can my twins not have the same father? How? It's not possible now." She clutched at her chest, gasping for air as her cries grew louder. "I swear on my life, I have never cheated on you. I swear." Her hands clung desperately to his shirt as she continued to wail like a mad woman. Leroy tried to hold her close, whispering, "Amira, please calm down. We will fix this. I believe you. Just calm down." Just then, his mother woke up. To the commotion, she sat up, rubbing her eyes, only to see her son struggling to pacify his hysterical wife. The moment she realized what was happening, she stood up, walked straight to her son, and delivered a resounding slap across his face. The room fell into an eerie silence. Leroy, stunned, held his cheek, his eyes wild in shock. "Mama, what was that for?" he asked, with tears brimming in his mother's eyes and rage contorting her face. His mother spat. "Phew, you are a disgrace for a son." She then turned to Amira, who immediately averted her gaze, her shoulders trembling. Leroy's mother's voice was laced with venom as she said, "As for you, your suffering is just beginning. You have brought shame and dishonor to my family. You will regret the day you ever met my son. You will regret the day you betrayed him." Leroy frowned. "Betrayed? Mama, where did you get that from?" he asked. "Where did I get that from? Do you even hear yourself? Your wife has given birth to children that are not even yours, and you still ask me where I got that from?" Shaking her head in disgust, she picked up her bag and stormed out of the hospital. Amira turned to her husband, her voice barely above a whisper, and her eyes searching for reassurance. "Leroy, your mother thinks I cheated on you." Leroy held her by the shoulder, looking into her tears-filled eyes. "No, she doesn't think so, okay? She's just angry and confused. You stay here and rest. Let me go and talk to her, okay?" He kissed her forehead before rushing out after his mother. Just as he disappeared down the hallway, the doctor walked in. His expression was grim. "Miss Amira, I am so sorry, but your son has fallen into a coma." Amira's eyes widened in horror. She let out a choked gasp, clutching her chest as fresh tears streamed down her face. Her body convulsed in agony, but this time she could not even scream. She gripped the hospital bed, sobbing profusely. The doctor continued gently. "I understand what you are going through, ma, but we need to find a donor urgently. If we don't, in less than 6 months, we might lose him." Amira closed her eyes tightly. Just then, Leroy ran back into the room. "Doctor, what's going on?" he asked. The doctor sighed. "I was just telling your wife that your son has fallen into a coma. If nothing is done soon, we might lose him." Leroy's eyes fell. "What can we do now? There are no more family members to test, doctor." The doctor explained that they could check other hospitals for possible matches or even arrange for blood to be shipped from abroad. Determined to save their son, Leroy and Amira decided to focus on finding a solution first before addressing the situation of the twins' paternity. Meanwhile, Leroy's mother arrived home in a fit of rage. She pulled out her phone and called the rest of the family. "Can you imagine? Can you believe what that harlot did? Amira has disgraced our family. She had the audacity to give birth to another man's children for your brother. She has been sleeping around like a shameless woman, and now she wants to pretend she is innocent. Never. She must live my son's life. Warn her, call your brother. You see that woman, that girl, she have to leave that house. I will not allow my family's name to be dragged in the mud like this." The next day, Leroy left for work, leaving Amira alone at home. She was sitting quietly when the doorbell rang. She opened it, only to come face to face with her husband's two sisters. Before she could even greet them, a hard slap landed on her cheek. Shocked, she staggered backward. Before she could recover, another slap struck her other cheek. "You shameless woman," one of them spat. "How dare you bring disgrace to our family?" The other settled. "Did you think you could get away with it?" "I swear," Amira said. I never, Amira tried to explain, but another slap silenced her. "We don't want your pathetic excuses. You better leave this marriage peacefully, or we will make your life a living hell. You have embarrassed us enough." With that, they turned on their heels, got into their car, and drove off. Amira stood at the doorway, both hands clutching her burning cheeks, tears spilling down her face as she slowly closed the door and went back inside the house. Few weeks later, and Amira was seen, pacing back and forth in the living room, her phone clutched tightly in her hands. Her heart pounded with anxiety as she made one call after another to different hospitals. Her voice hoarses from repeated explanations. Hello, this is Mrs. Amira Leroy. Please, I am looking for a donor with blood type O negative for my son. He's in a coma and urgently needs a transfusion. Do you have any available donors? I am sorry, ma'am, but we currently don't have any compatible donor in our blood bank. Came yet another disappointing response. Tears welled up in her eyes as she clenched her jaw. Thank you, she whispered before ending the call. She quickly searched online, scanning medical websites, donor databases, and international blood banks, hoping for a miracle. Her vision blurred with tears, but she kept searching, refusing to give up. Amira began frequenting the church, spending hours on her knees praying for her child's survival. She pleaded with God, tears streaming down her eyes, her voice breaking as she whispered, Please, don't take my son away. Let him wake up. Give me a sign, please. One afternoon, as she returned from church, she drove into the compound and stepped out of the car exhausted and was about shutting her door when a splash of cold liquid drenched her from the back. The sharp sting of peppered water hit her skin and she let out a scream. Ah, Mama, what is this? She cried, clutching her burning skin. Her mother in law stood before her, her face twisted in rage. This is just a test of the suffering you will endure, you shameless woman. You think you can make a fool of my son and get away with it, carrying another man's child and pretending you are innocent. Amira sobbed, her skin burning. Amira, unable to bear the pain, ran inside, weeping uncontrollably. A few months passed, and despite all effort, no donor had been found. Then one morning, Amira received a devastating call from the hospital. The doctor's voice was solemn. Miss Amira, I am truly sorry, but there is still no match for your son. His condition is worsening. You and your husband should prepare yourself. He has he has only a few days left. Amira's breath hissed and she let out a broken sob. No, doctor, please. There must be something we can do. The doctor sighed. We are trying our best, but time is running out. I am so sorry. Amira dropped the phone. Shaking, she picked it up again with trembling hands and dialed Leroy. When he answered, she could barely get the words out between her sobs. Leroy, they said our son only has a few days left. Silence filled the line before Leroy let out a choked cry. Sitting in his office, he covered his face, his shoulders shaking as tears streamed down his cheeks. God, please, no, please don't take my son. Meanwhile, Benjamin was all dressed to go out when his phone rang. Seeing Amira's name, he smiled. Hey, babes, he stopped, mid sentence, alarmed by the sound of her heart wrenching sob. Breathe, breathe, Amira, breathe, okay? Now tell me what happened. Through sobs, she explained everything. Benjamin sighed, rubbing his face. Calm down, okay? I am coming over right now. And just as he stepped out, he bumped into his friend Gabriel. Gabriel was tall, dark, and strikingly handsome, with piercing green eyes that made him stand out. His presence was commanding, yet his expression was always calm and composed. Gabriel raised an eyebrow. Benjamin, I was about coming to visit you. What happened? You look worried. What's going on? Benjamin let out a deep sigh. It's Amira. Her son is dying, and they can't find a donor. I need to go and see her. Gabriel placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Then, let's go together. When they arrived at Amira's house, they found her sobbing in Leroy's arms. Her mother in law sat a few feet away, her face dark with anger. Benjamin and Gabriel greeted everyone. Amira stood up and ran into Benjamin's arms, seeking comfort from her best friend. Leroy's mother immediately stood up, clapping her hands mockingly. Aha! Eh, yes, that's him, your side man, your spare tire. You have destroyed my son's life to the point he doesn't even care if you bring men into his home. Shameless woman, just look at you. Look at what you have done to my son. Ah, Jehovah. Everyone in the room fell into silence, embarrassed by the outburst. Leroy turned to his mother, his face filled with frustration. Mama, calm down. Amira is not like that. And for your information, this is Benjamin, Amira's childhood friend. Also, Mama, he's not straight, and I am sure the gentleman with him is also his friend. His mother's eyes widened in shock as she glanced between Benjamin and Gabriel. Oh, oh well, still, this woman has disgraced us, she said. Ignoring her, Amira offered Benjamin and Gabriel seats. They sat down, discussing all the effort they made to find a donor for their child. With no success, the room fell into an uneasy silence. Then, Gabriel suddenly cleared his throat. Can I at least get tested? He asked. The room fell silent. Everyone turned to him in shock. Who is this stranger requesting to get tested? Amira's mother in law sneered. Benjamin turned to Gabriel. Are you serious? You will do that? Gabriel nodded, solemnly. I don't know why, but I have a feeling I should. Let me try. Hope flickered in Amira's eyes as she turned to Leroy. Leroy, please, let's take him to the hospital, she said. Leroy, though hesitant, finally nodded. All right, let's go. As he got up to leave, Amira clutched her chest, whispering to herself, God, please, let this be the miracle we have been waiting for. They arrived at the hospital and Gabriel got tested and was a match. And with that, Amira's child was stable. They offered to pay Gabriel, but he refused the money. Soon, peace of mind was finally restored to Leroy and Amira. Despite trying to ignore the bitter truth about the paternity, Leroy still couldn't know peace because there was a secret deep in his heart he couldn't let out. One day, Amira drove to the hospital to visit her son, but was surprised to see Gabriel sitting next to him with tears in his eyes. He began, My handsome boy, I can't believe I almost lost you. I wish I had come earlier. You would have long recovered by now. Please get better. Get better, my sweet Josiah. Amira standing behind him at the door, with her mouth opened wide in shock. She moved past him and asked, Who is Josiah? Gabriel stood as he wiped his tears. I, he stammered. Amira cut in. I heard everything, so please don't lie to me. Tell me the truth. Who is Josiah? She asked. Gabriel then went ahead and explained how he had known Amira since college. They both attended the same college and he fell in love with her from a distance. He couldn't walk up to her to express himself because back then he used to be a nerd. He was deeply in love, so he started stalking her, enrolling in the same university as her until she left school. I told myself I wasn't going to marry anyone but you. So when you left school, I didn't know where to find you. Many years down the line, I came across you and your husband at a supermarket and I followed you. Since then, I have been stalking you from work to your house to anywhere you go until you went to visit Benjamin. Then I realized Benjamin was the key to finally getting close to you and expressing my feelings, regardless of your marital status. So I pretended to become friends with Benjamin, who was unaware of my motives, hoping to always see and spend time with you. Then it came. Gabriel stopped, as if finding it hard to continue. And what came? Amira asked. The night you slept at Benjamin's place, over a misunderstanding with your mother in law. I know what you're thinking. Oh, yes, I was at Benjamin's place that day. When Benjamin offered to make you a cup of tea, I told him to find you something to wear while I make the tea. And then I included something inside. What did you add and who gave it to you? Amira asked, shaking. I don't know why, but I always carry this drug with me anywhere I go. I take it only when I want to sleep, without stress, so I include it in your tea. And when I noticed Benjamin had slept, I came into your room, and that was how Josiah was made. I mean, our son. You can see he has my eyes. You were the one that undressed me at Benjamin's. Amira asked, horrified. Gabriel nodded, and with that, Amira gave him a loud slap that led to the bleeding of one side of his mouth. Then she walked out straight into the doctor's office. He was surprised to see her. Miss Amira, I hope all is well. Did Gabriel do a DNA test with my son? She asked. Oh, yes, the doctor replied. But I thought you were aware, since you also allowed him to donate his blood to the child. Mr. Doctor, sir, she said, this is far from professional, but I will let it pass for now. And what was the result about the paternity? She asked. Oh, Mr. Gabriel Madu is 99.99% his father. I mean, the biological father of your son. Amira was tired. With no tears left to cry, she went home, sad and tired, wondering how to explain everything to Leroy. Soon, Leroy came downstairs, kneeling, and Amira was confused. Why? Why are you kneeling? She asked. There's been a secret I have been keeping away from you since we started dating and got married. Amira was shocked. What secret? What secret are you talking about, Leroy? She asked. He continued, I am the reason for our childlessness for 9 years. What? Amira froze. Please, please, don't be angry. I beg you. Please let me explain. Way back at school, I always knew I didn't want to have children. But I thought maybe after graduation I would see a doctor about it. But then an ex girlfriend of mine got pregnant and I pressurized her to abort it. That pushed me into not wanting to wait anymore after graduation. So I went straight to a doctor and had a vasectomy. What? Leroy, Amira whispered. Amira, Amira, look, I am sorry. Please forgive me. Amira stood up, nodding her head. You have betrayed me in the worst way, Leroy. 12 years. We started trying for 12 years, and you never thought it was wise to tell me around our third year of dating that you were the one responsible for our inability to have children. Then, 9 years inside our marriage with no children, and your parents thought it was my fault. No wonder you always defend me from them because it's been your doing all along. Oh, Leroy, Leroy, why? I am sorry, Leroy continued. I couldn't bring myself to tell you or my family. And when you told me you were pregnant, I went back to my doctor to ask how was it that you were able to get pregnant. Then he told me the procedure I had was not 100% guaranteed. At the end of the day, I fell in love with our twins and I don't care about any paternity. Please forgive me. Let us live together again like one big happy family. Amira stood, nodded her head, went upstairs, packed her bags, and met Leroy, who was still kneeling. I am sorry, she said. All this information is too much. I have heard enough for one day, and I just need some space, some peace. Please, if you love and respect me at all, then please don't call me. Don't look for me. I am going with Junior. Please, take care of our son. I will return for him as soon as he is out from coma. And with that, Amira left and never looked back. Hey guys, please drop your answers in the comment section below. Should Amira forgive Leroy for keeping such a deep secret from her for years? And should Gabriel be punished for what he did, or should he be given a chance to be in his son's life? If you were Amira, how would you handle the situation? The moral lesson in this story is that honesty is essential in relationships. Hidden secrets can destroy even the strongest bonds. Never assume responsibility for another person's action because Amira suffered years of blame for something that was never her fault. I hope you guys enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and tell me what you think about the story. See you soon with another beautiful story. Bye.